Hi everyone, my name is Diana. I am the Tucker instructor at Wishuponaquilt. We just want to thank you for continuing to tune in every day to our live videos and shopping at our website. Frank and Lori had called me and said, hey, do you want to come in and film a live video for us using some of the Tucker rulers? And unfortunately, my son and I are both fall into the high risk category, so we are unable to leave the house. So we are here today in my sewing room filming a how-to video on this table runner that I came up with last week. There will be a free pattern available to you. All you have to do is email wishuponaquilt@bellsouth.net and Janice will get this free pattern out to you. It uses both the wing clipper and the Tucker trimmer. And it also uses something called a blockbuster. If you go on to studio180design.net and scroll to the bottom, there's a section called free downloads. And this is under the blockbuster section, and this particular block is called Around the Block. Believe it or not, this table runner is all one block, just using different colors and different fabric placement to come up with the 3 blocks. So let's talk a little bit about what you'll need to make this table runner. I used 3 fat quarters from the Canning Day line that we have available at the shop right now. I love this line. I fell in love with it when Lori brought it in. It's absolutely fantastic. And I also used 1 yard of Kona white fabric. That gave me everything that you see, all the background, the binding, and it will also give you the backing. So this is one that will use very little fabric and pack a lot of punch. So let's talk about what you need to make these blocks. We're going to start out by using the Tucker trimmer. And this will be used to make half square triangles on what's known as combination units. And then we will also be using the wing clipper, and this makes flying geese units 4 at a time. And the great thing about all of your Tucker tools is that they make your units larger than they need to be, and then you trim them down to the precise size that you need to put them into your blocks. So if we look at our blocks here, you can see that we have half square triangles using the Tucker trimmer, combination units using the Tucker trimmer, and flying geese units using the wing clipper. So I'm going to start with your half square triangle, and all of your measurements will be in your pattern. I used the measurements on the second piece of paper to make the 8-inch finished block. So you're going to start out with squares that are 3 inches, and again this will be in your pattern, and you're going to layer them right sides together, and you're going to take what is known as a quilter's magic wand. We have these for sale in the shop, and you are going to lay this on your fabrics and draw a line on either side of it diagonally. And as you can see here, you get 2 lines that are exactly 1/4 inch from the center. What you're going to do is you're going to take that to your sewing machine and you're going to stitch directly on those lines. Once you've done that, you'll come back to your cutting table and you are going to cut those in half right in between the lines, and you'll end up with 2 oversized half square triangles. And what I do is I press my fabrics to the darker piece of your half square triangle. Once they're pressed, what you're going to do is you are going to take your Tucker trimmer, and if you look at this Tucker trimmer here, you can see there's a half circle and a whole circle on your Tucker trimmer. What you're going to want to do for this one is use the half circle, because we're going for 2.5 inch unfinished half square triangles that will go in your block. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Tucker trimmer and I'm going to lay this 2.5 inch dotted line right here directly on my seam line. And I am going to take my rotary cutter and I'm going to cut off the extra fabric. Then I'm going to rotate that unit 180 degrees and line up that 2.5 inch line again, and these dotted lines on the lines that I just trimmed, these dotted lines here and that line there, we're going to line that up on your seam and on the edges that I've just trimmed, and I'm going to trim that again. And then you end up with a 2.5 inch unfinished half square triangle that you're ready to go into your blocks. And people say, well, doesn't that waste a lot of fabric? It really doesn't, because that's all the fabric that you end up with once you're done trimming for each one, and you're making 2 at a time. So after you're done with that, the next unit that you're going to be making is what is known as a combination unit, and that is made using 2 1/4 square triangles and a half square triangle. Deb Tucker has a wonderful technique sheet out there available. It is called Non-Mirror Combination Units, which allows you to make 4 units that go the exact same direction. If you do this using her original Tucker trimmer instructions, which come with the ruler, your units will end up being mirror images instead of being the exact same. So you can also look for her YouTube video on how to do this. I'm not going to go over everything with you in detail today, but you can look for her YouTube video and also look for this on our website. Again, it's called Non-Mirror Combo Units. So what you're going to do is you're going to layer 2 of your fabrics right sides together. And you are going to take your Quilter's Magic Wand and you are going to draw your lines exactly like this. You're going to take it to your sewing machine and you're going to sew directly on that line, stop, pivot, and then go down the line on the other side. Then you're going to rotate the unit and do the exact same thing again. And then once you're done with that, you will take it to your cutting table and you're going to cut this into 4 pieces. So you will cut in half this way, and then you will take those units and rotate them. And if you have a rotating mat, it's a great time to use it. If not, you can turn it just like I did. You're going to cut them in half again, and you end up with 4 units that look like this. And again, I tend to press towards the dark on that. So once I've pressed, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 3rd color, and I've got a square that is at 3.5 inches. Again, all these measurements are in your pattern that you're going to get. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to cut that in half as well on the diagonal. And I'm going to take that over to my sewing machine, and I'm going to sew these 2 together using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then I'm going to end up with the unit that looks just like this. And as you can see, it's a little bit wonky and it's oversized. So once again, I am going to take my Tucker trimmer and I am going to line it up again using the 2.5 inch markings on my tool. And this time, not only are we going to use this dotted line that's right here, we're also going to use this solid line that's known as the common diagonal. So I'm going to take that common diagonal and I'm going to line it up with the seam that goes this way, and I'm going to take my 2.5 inch seam, or dotted line, excuse me, and line it up on the seam, the longer seam. And I am going to trim. And then once again, I am going to take that unit and I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees. And once again, I am going to line the common diagonal line up with this seam line here. My 2.5 inch hash marks are going to be lined up on the pieces that I just cut, and then that 2.5 inch diagonal line is going to go on my seam line, and then once again I am going to trim. And then these units here are the ones that end up being your pinwheel units in the center of all of your blocks, and it's just a matter of color placement, and that color placement is in the pattern. So the last unit that we need to make these blocks are called flying geese. And many of you may be familiar with the 4 at a time flying geese method. And Deb has taken that method, and again, she has everything be a little bit oversized, and then she has you trim them down. So what you're going to need for this is one large 5.5-inch square and 4 smaller 3-inch squares, and these will make 4 flying geese, and you need 4 flying geese for each block in the table runner. Once again, you're going to take your quilter's magic wand and you are going to use that to mark your squares. And you're going to take 2 of your smaller squares and you're going to line them up just like this on your larger square. And you're going to sew directly on those lines. Now, what Deb has you do, and this works really well, is you are going to place these smaller squares about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of your larger square. Once you've done that, you're going to take your ruler and you're going to cut these in half, and you're going to end up with 2 units that look like this. You are going to press towards those triangles, and I call this a wonky heart is what you're going to end up with. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to take one of the other squares and you are going to line it up, and you are going to use your quilter's magic wand and draw your 2 lines again and sew directly on top of them. Then bring that over to your table, cut it in half, and you now have your flying geese units. Once you've made all your flying geese units, you're then going to take your wing clipper and you are going to trim down those units. And how you do that is there are lines here on the ruler that line up with your seam lines. And how you do that is you are always going to want your unit to start off by facing you. The point is going to face you because you are the one that's doing all the trimming. So I'm going to line that up, and I am going to take that 2.5-inch line, because my units are 2.5 by 4.5, so I want to make sure that everything is fitting within that 2.5 by 4.5-inch line. And I am going to line up my 2 diagonal lines on the seam lines, and then I'm going to trim. And then I'm going to rotate that unit 180 degrees, and then I'm going to line up the 4.5-inch line and the 2.5-inch line and this X that's at the top with my seam lines and the lines that I've already trimmed. And I'm going to trim off the extra. And there you go. You end up with a perfectly sized flying goose unit that gives you your precise 1/4 inch right there for when you sew it together, and you will no longer be cutting off your goose beaks because everything is exactly sized. So those are the 3 units that make up this table runner. Again, the pattern is available to you by emailing at wishuponaquilt@bellsouth.net, and Janice will give you the pattern. The pattern is called 1 Block 3 Ways. And again, everything that I have talked to you about today, your quilter's magic wand, your friction pen, which is what I use for marking, your Tucker trimmer, and your wing clipper, these are all available to purchase on the website. If you have any questions, you can give them a call at 919-782-6363. They're open every day, taking online orders from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And they're really enjoying still being able to have contact with you guys through email, through videos, and through our new Facebook site, which is Wish Stay at Home Projects. So I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit about these units and about this table runner. When classes are back in session, I will be teaching all these units and all these different tools in something called Tucker University. If you guys are interested in having any other videos on any of her other tools, leave me a note on this video and I'll see what I can do to make some more for you. Enjoy your stay-at-home projects, and we hope to see you soon.